Starport Omega, probing the galaxy one exhaust port at a time.
Give me
Go.
a second. I'll be right back. I need water.
Okay, Tom, go. Your rant. What I really hate.
So, what I really hate is Judd's story was that Judd was banned from PUBG for using Reshade, and whether or not Reshade is a legitimate tool for colorblindness or things like that is another conversation. My problem is this: I'm seeing a lot of people banned from online games. Games that are online only. You literally you spend $50, you buy the game. You cannot play the game if you cannot connect online. Diablo 3, for example. Any New World.
Dead by Daylight.
Dead by Daylight. You cannot play these games offline. There's no way to play it locally. So along comes whatever. Something happens, you get banned from the game. Sometimes it's behavior. Sometimes it's behavior that is you're being a jerk, but you don't think you're being a jerk is bannable. Or, I kid you not, kids were banned from playing Overwatch because they refused to switch characters. Because the team wanted them to play a different character in order to fit whatever the current meta was.
Yeah, they had enough people vote against them. Yeah, they had enough people vote against them and reported them.
And people reported them for that, and they got banned for that as a form of trolling. Now, my problem is this. I will say that I firmly believe that video game makers should have the right to police their social networks, including the online networks for these games. But two things need to change. One, you get banned, and they will tell you in the ban email, there are no appeals. There is no way to appeal this. There is no way to challenge this. Our decision is final. Okay. I have a huge problem with that. There's no form of due process. The fact that there is no way to challenge it, you have spent money to buy the game, and then they just went, yoink, you no longer get to play that game anymore without any form of recompense. That's number one problem. Number two problem is, so obviously we have no due process. We have no way to mitigate it. We have no way to undo it. Number two problem is, once you're banned from playing this game, you effectively don't own it anymore. And shouldn't we have a provision for playing any game offline?
Oh, it's even worse than that. It's not that you're banned from playing it anymore. It's the account that you have on that one isn't banned from playing it anymore. You can always go buy another copy of the game and start playing again, at least in most of the ones I play.
And that's what a lot of... that's where a lot of people...
Go spend another $50, buy another copy of the game. Sometimes they will chase you, especially if you're high profile. They will chase you. They will chase down your account, and they'll be like, "Oh, you use the same credit card."
Oh, and it's not just that.
They'll ban you over and over again.
And the ban there is breaking TOS, because if you're banned and you go around the ban, you are then breaking the TOS when you sign up for the game. If you make an online account with it, you are breaking the agreement that you just signed.
Technically, they're banning your account. So, I mean, unless you're on something like Blizzard, where you have an account that has several games in it. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you've got an account on, I don't know, pick something that only has one game, and they ban your account, they're just banning your account. I mean, they can't say, no, you can't go buy another one.
Yeah.
Well, like when he said that it's in the terms of service, one of the things that they actually write in there is ban avoidance. So they literally, if you get banned and you buy another game, you buy another account and start playing on a new account, we have the right to ban that account as well.
You know, and we can also argue it the other way around. There's a lot of issues with cheating programs in games, and the game owners not, the programmers and everything not doing enough to prevent these things from being used. And
this is,
it makes games extremely hard to play. Like Dead by Daylight. I have watched a killer go from one side of the map to another side of the map. The match is ended in the first 10 seconds because he's put everyone on hook in 10 seconds. And the same thing happens with survivors. I have literally gone up to a locker, and I've shared this video. I've gone up to a locker, opened the locker, and the locker fell over. That doesn't happen in the game. That is not part of the game. You don't open the locker as killer and be like, oops, forgot what my strength was.
Who was it that was playing? Somebody I know was playing the Conan game, not Conan Exiles, but the one that came out just before that. It was basically like an FPS, a combat arena combat type of game. And it would be like you'd start playing, and all of a sudden people would come in and be doing like 10,000 times more damage than is capable. It's capable.
And that's the same thing. Like these are people these are causing the bannable offenses. So when someone does something minor,
I still think that there should be a way to do things like that as long as everybody agrees it's okay. But there should be some kind of way that it's like, dude, be as freaky as you want to be, bring whatever you want. Because I keep going back to Diablo 3. I mean, I use the now defunct overlay that you weren't supposed to use. Don't tell anybody.
I would understand overlays, but when you were literally trying to rank up in a game.
But see, that's the thing. In some games, there is no ranking up. And if everybody you're playing with in your group uses something like that as well, who cares?
Yeah.
If everybody agrees to use a cheat, it's cool. But if there should be like a checkbox or something. No cheaters here. No, you can't put anything in to help you play. But if you don't check that, or if you check you don't care, you can bring what you want.
Well, and here's the interesting thing: there is in some games. We played a couple of games where we have online servers, for example. I believe Valheim had one of the anti-cheat systems built into it, and you had to install that separately in order for the game to operate.
I didn't know that.
But you can choose not to install it. And then you only can play on servers that don't enforce the anti-cheat.
Same thing with art.
I'm down with that.
And but my problem is this. I believe that users of software have rights. And I believe that when you buy a piece of software, here, I'm going to give you $50. You're going to give me a piece of software. That's a purchase. That's not a rental.
Yeah.
And you cannot if I go and buy a lamp. I'm going to go to Walmart. I'm going to go buy a lamp. Here's your lamp. Here's your flashlight. Here's your flashlight. I take that flashlight, I go use it. Walmart can't decide to come and take the flashlight back out of my hand because they don't like where I put it. And regardless of how the flashlight's being used, they can't literally take that flashlight back and decide, oh no, you don't own that flashlight anymore. It's a durable good. Software needs to be durable goods. And even if a software is used online only, they should not be able to redact your ability to use that software without due process. And that's my problem. One person makes a decision. There's no way to appeal it. There's no way to challenge it. There's no system. There's no court for video game bans. And that's what I have a problem with.
There are some places that you can, request that the ban be removed. Like Dead by Daylight, they have an entire, online service for reportable offenses or trying to get unbanned, stuff like that.
And those that do, that's great. I love that some are being socially responsible in that way. But Activision doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Electronic Arts doesn't do that.
The big cheaters.
I think I may have interrupted Jim. Jim?
Oh, we lost his microphone. Did he mute himself?
I think so.
He muted himself. He must be talking to somebody.
Okay.
And coming back to the same thing, I feel like one of our rights that's enshrined in our country is the right to due process. You cannot be imprisoned without a trial. You cannot have your possessions taken away without a trial.
Yeah, but you have to also remember that these games are also run worldwide. A lot of these games are. I get that.
I'm not worldwide. I'm in the United States of America. I have rights in the United States of America. And one of those is that you can't come take my things away without a court saying that my things should be taken away. And and it's not just video games that I have a problem with this. I have the problem with the whole idea of software having gone from something you buy and keep to something that you now rent. And if the server goes offline or if the company decides they just don't want to support it anymore, it's basically useless.
That's one of my big bitches with DRM.
And
Judd, you have a copy of Terminator 2 that included a WMV file that allowed you to watch Terminator 2 on your computer without needing a disk. But Microsoft turned off the servers that allow you to decrypt it.
Oh yeah, that's going to be a thing with all these people are going to find out one day that when Amazon Prime Video or when iTunes goes out of business, when Apple goes out of business and stops supporting iTunes, all those movies they bought are just going to magically stop working. And at least with iTunes, you could download the movie, but you can't download the movie with Prime Video. You can't download the movie from Vudu. You don't own a copy of the movie.
The Terminator 2 Judgment Day that Brad was talking about, it was a DVD well before Blu-ray came out. It actually had 1080p remastered of it on the disc as WMV. But in order to play it back,
it had a license. Yeah.
Had to call for license. That server's long since gone. There's no way to play it back. I've got from I think it was 1999 or 2000 a plus pack from Microsoft for Windows 98. There are I think 5 or 6 music videos on it. One of which was positioned by Sarah McLachlan. Can't play it back because it phones home.
I remember that plus pack. Yeah, I had it too. One of my tests on every new computer that I installed Windows 95 on was I played that the Edie Brickell video.
Yeah, I love that song.
Jim's back, and that sound freaked me out. Hi.
What?
I'm awake. There was a sudden psst in my ear.
Play, Weezer?
No, I thought that song was dumb.
What? The Weezer song?
Okay, so another program.
I just don't like Weezer.
So another program that I can kind of be okay with it because I got it for free. OBS stopped working when I didn't update it to the new version. Do you remember that? Like, I think it was like 3 years back now. I was on the beta test of OBS, and they had stopped updating the beta test, and I was automatically getting the updates, and I was like, I am updated, and then someone points out that I'm still using the beta test of OBS, and I was like, oh, I signed up for automatic updates. You know, that kind of irks me a little bit, but at the same time, they went from beta to release. That was on me for not keeping up with shit.
And that's an interesting point because at least with OBS is free software.
Yeah.
So it's not just free that you don't have to pay for it, but it's free that it's open source and you can download and compile it yourself.
Yeah.
And there's another issue, and that's planned obsolescence of software, planned or unplanned obsolescence of software. I'm a big proponent of finding a way to fix what are called orphaned works, and the orphan works is kind of a semi-legal term, in the sense that when you have a piece of writing, music, anything that's copyrightable, where the person that owns the work is no longer available to license it.
Yeah.
Under U.S. law, you cannot copy that work. So, for example, I write a book and then I die.
Different.
It used to be different. If I write a book and then I die and I don't have any heirs, nobody owns the book anymore. It literally goes into limbo.
No, well, used to it went into public domain. That's how my absolute favorite writer, all of his works were in the public domain. They were all written in the 60s.
Uh-huh.
And he had rights to them all, and he died. And about 5-6 years ago, they all went public. 70 years. And they all went public domain.
Well, and that's the thing, is it takes 70 years. Exactly. But
it used to only take 20.
Well,
it used to be 20 years with an unclaimed work, and I think it was 30. And what was it, Brad? It was 30 years for a copyrighted work before it fell out?
It depends on which copyright revision you're talking about, because
way back, back when laws were sane.
I think it was like 15 years or something like that. You had to renew your copyright. You had to register it. You had to renew it.
Basically, before the mouse showed up.
Oh no! Back then, copyright was an opt-in system. It was the Copyright Act of 1972 that turned it into an opt-out system.
Yeah, because it used to be set up to where it was like you could make derivative works.
14-year. Okay, so the Copyright Act of 1970 established it as a 14-year with a 14-year renewal. So the longest you could own a work for was 28 years.
And how cool would it be? I mean, just think about it now. If
20 years ago, Star Wars would have become public domain.
Yeah.
Try to think of all the derivative works, all the movies, all the books, all the podcasts, all the everything. The explosion of creativity with that would have been amazing. But George Lucas wouldn't have got $29 billion for basically retelling Buck Rogers.
Well, no, you should be thinking more Star Trek and less Star Wars. Because Star Wars was actually well managed. They actually did expand it a lot. To write a book into the Star Wars universe, you basically wrote the book and submitted it to them, and they would issue you a notice of whether it could and could not do hardware. If you do not have a support contract, your hardware does not work. So if I spend $2,000 on a router,
good.
If I do not also maintain a subscription to their support service, and it checks at least once a week, it has to be connected to the internet. Or if it's not connected to the internet, it has to have a special server on its, offline network that you plug in a USB drive once a month with new validated security tokens, and everything keeps working. If you do not pay your subscription or you do not update that special server in time, your equipment no longer switches and no longer routes. It turns into a brick and goes, hey, I don't have valid proof that I'm a legitimate device, so I'm not working anymore.
Didn't Apple make the news with something about the fact their older phone models stopped working, they were shutting off service to them?
They shut off online service because they're running old systems that were no longer supported, and they stopped doing that
But it basically made
6
cell
years
phones stop
after.
working.
No, they cut off their Apple service. It still had access to the internet. It could still run whatever apps are installed on it. It still worked as a cell phone. This is akin to them. What Cisco did, it would be the equivalent of Apple going, this device is no longer supported. It's now a brick. Bonk. You now have a very expensive paperweight. I can still pull out my
bill, so it's now no longer usable.
Yeah. I can still dig up my Apple 3GS and plug in a SIM, and the only reason why it's not going to work is because the cellular network no longer supports that standard.
I probably could pull out my original Apple iPhone. OG. I had an OG iPhone. I probably could pull that out and it would still work.
No, it wouldn't. 2G is actually off.
On Wi-Fi.
Well, okay, on Wi-Fi, yeah, it would work, but you would not have access to any, depending on your firmware.
If I kept the Apple OG that I was given by my brother and turned it on, it would not work because it made noise, and I was a teenager, and the moment it made a noise and it shocked me, I threw it against the wall. Because my brother got it, he's like, well, it could be an alarm clock. It'll be safer for you guys. That thing was the loudest motherfucking noisemaker that they ever put in my room.
Louder. Those things have gotten louder. My first gen iPhone was loud. My second gen iPhone was louder. The new, what is it, 13, 14, whatever, the Pro Max, that thing actually has a 300 milliwatt speaker
I liked
in it.
my little slide phone. And then they were like, you're going to update to this. And the touchscreen, I still have issues with touchscreens to this day. Because I fail to use the touchscreen when my hands go cold. I have poor circulation. This is very often.
Well, that's interesting because the touchscreen's got nothing to do with temperature.
Well, I always have issues with it. Same thing with at ATMs or the Walmart checkout. If my hands are cold, I have issues.
Oh, if your fingers aren't generating enough oils, because it needs to be a little bit
connectivity.
It's capacitive. Yeah. You have a little bit of oil to get the capacity of it.
So it's not the fact it's the temperature; it's the fact that I'm too dry.
Yeah.
So have any of you guys activated an Android device recently?
No. Funny enough, I'm actually looking to purchase one.
I just bought a Motorola One. I just bought a Motorola One. It's like a 5-inch. That's a pretty phone. And I just activated it yesterday, and it's constantly nagging me to use their tutorials to try out how to do their things. And it's just and what's annoying is you can't turn those notifications off. But you want to talk about an obnoxious phone, Brad? My previous Motorola crappy Motorola Android phone, the startup sound, it would reboot and it would be all "Hello, Moto," boom, bop, and it's just like it played this song when it would boot up, and it would
Yep.
finish at like 3 a.m. after doing a software update.
Mine doesn't do that. It does every now and then prompt me and ask me if I want to turn on the Google Assistant,
Uh-huh.
but
No.
Yeah, I'm
The,
getting a little. I turned off all the voice activated features on my. That's because it's my work phone.
yeah.
So it's a pretty phone. I didn't realize it was going to be so big. I actually almost didn't want it to be so big. It's bigger than my iPhone, but it's not a bad phone for $100. Can't really complain.
The downside with T-Mobile phones, other than Apple, is when they give a restart, it's the damn stupid T-Mobile jingle whenever it turns on.
Yeah.
Do-do-do-do-do. Or
Dan,
whatever.
Supposedly, there's a bill. There's actually a bill going to being knocked around in Congress right now that would give us rights regarding our phones. Among other things, it would require manufacturers to allow for alternative app stores and side loading. But my favorite provision, it would prohibit forced app installation. It would
Oh,
make it
that'd be
illegal.
nice.
It would make it illegal to have apps that are not removable.
Yeah, Verizon was notorious for that. They actually got slapped in court for it.
Yeah, and Apple is absolutely adamant. You will never ever do that to an iPhone. And my Verizon phone has the NFL app and all this other crap on it. My iPhone is, I mean, it's pristine. It has nothing on
Yeah.
it that I didn't put on it, and I like that.
I
My
don't
biggest
think
rant.
I don't think there's anything on my phone I cannot remove. But I also have a Google, so
Well, you got the Google, like the Google One or something like
this is
that.
the Google Pixel XL3.
Okay, the Pixels are basically Apple's version of, I'm sorry, Google's version of the iPhone, and they're premium. It's their premium line of their premium product line, and you're right. It doesn't have any of that crap, and I
Yeah.
like that.
I like the
Right.
3 better than the 4. Like, I had the 4. I don't like having, like, the glass on the backside.
There's
Because
been a lot of complaints about the 4
I-
in general.
I can't fucking stand it because I'm leaving fingerprints on it. If I have a case on it, I've got to have protection glass on both sides. You know, and I already have issues with the fact that this thing always has marks on it, and then that side's gonna have marks on it, and then my brain's never gonna shut off. So that's also why we don't own it anymore.
My brain's going to shut off.
No, my brain's never going to shut off.
Never going to shut off, right? Because you're going
Right.
to have the whole OCD.
Overthinking it. It's constantly there. I know that there's a scratch mark on this.
Yeah.
I need a new cover, you know.
All the phones at work when we were converting everybody over from Sprint to Verizon, I was annoyed at that because I had to do the 30 or so phones for our warehouse, and every single phone you first turn it on and it first activates. Hey, great! And within 5 minutes, there's a good dozen applications that get installed automatically.
Yeah.
Most of them are
No,
games.
That,
And they're
that is
trials.
dangerous.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is not something this is a work phone. This is
Oh,
not.
this can also apply to TVs. There, you know, there's a couple of the TV companies out there that are doing the smart TVs, and you can't run the smart TV without having an ad at the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh no,
That's when you buy a new
my
TV.
parents bought a Samsung TV, and I run DNS level ad blocking. I
yeah,
black
in the
hole
router.
ads. Yeah, at the edge. I actually had 2 DNS servers set up on my network that were basically identical, except one of them had slightly higher protection because some devices, Apple, likes to ignore your primary DNS and use whatever's secondary to get around security, because your primary is usually going to be your high security. No, I did the exact opposite because things like to sneak around doing that. Apple hated my network because I blocked all of their telemetry and everything, and we're not seeing any bug reports. No, I'm blocking them. There's a freaking reason why. unless you submit them by hand yourself, in which case it will work, amazingly enough. The telemetry you get from devices and the manual submission on many devices use two different communication channels. One of those will always work, and that is the manual submission. But frickin' Samsung, anytime I was wondering why my log for my DNS blocker had Samsung, and all right, blocking Microsoft BS is usually number 2. The order of magnitude difference between Microsoft and Samsung blew my mind. I was like, okay, I know I'm blocking a lot of stuff from Samsung, but there's only a Samsung TV. Every time my parents would hit a button on their remote, it would send a telemetry update.
Oh, good God.
Yeah. So like
And
near constant. They're trying to get this passed through Congress too about like companies can't do that.
oh, and that Samsung TV happened to be one of the ones with, oh, it has a built-in microphone that they didn't tell you about. Oh, this is also the one that in my room, it's like 1 a.m. and my dad's knocking on my door when I live with him, going, hey, can you come in here for a second? Okay, why? Go in there. It's like, we're trying to watch Netflix and it's trying to play an ad in the middle of House of Cards.
The TV itself, not Netflix.
The TV itself was trying to play an ad.